what was it doing on Mars instead of Earth? And third, what the fuck is up with the crack the code or die stipulation? If we can't crack the code, how is killing us better than doing nothing at all? What the hell kind of Martians are these? After what is discovered in the end, everyone gets all warm and fuzzy, like they've just uncovered something wonderful. It's so ridiculous and frustrating, you just want to jump into the film yourself, grab these people by the shirt collar, and remind them that 4 people are dead because of these assholes. I know I'm being a tad vague here, but unlike my general reviews, I try not to spoil the film for people in my requests. Long story short, why anyone involved in this project thought that the audience would ever be able to accept this asinine ending is beyond me. I mean, the rest of the film leading up to this ending wasn't the greatest thing ever made, but it was passable. But this ending turns the film that wasn't all that worth watching anyway into an unacceptable hunk of shit. This is not one of the worst films that's ever been made. It just feels like a waste of time, money, and effort. In a case like this, where you're making a film that's so close to other films, the audience can't help but feel that they'd be better off just watching those other films again. In fact, after sitting through Mission to Mars, I went and watched Apollo 13, and following that, I had all but forgotten about Mission to Mars altogether. I didn't end up hating it, I just felt like, why bother? Why bother making it? Why bother watching it? The film is completely dispensable. I might go so far as to say that if there's nothing else on, you may consider watching it, but even then, I'd sooner recommend renting The Abyss or Apollo 13. There really is no reason to watch Mission to Mars. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen in my life, but it's definitely not worth your time. The Cube was one of Jim Henson's only projects that did not include Muppets or puppets, and was considered to be a lost work. I had never even heard of this project. It's so rare, in fact, that I ended up having to watch it on Google Video, because you just can't find this anywhere. It's essentially a psychological dark comedy involving a man trapped in a cube, but what we really have here is basically a variation of Plato's allegory of the cave, a story that tries to deal with the problem of appearance and reality. Bertrand Russell once said that the distinction between appearance and reality is one of the distinctions that causes the most trouble in philosophy, and he was not wrong about that. But imagine if Russell had simply left it at that he had simply stated it was a problem and forever closed the issue of trying to solve it. Well, that, unfortunately, is what the Cube seemed to me to be doing, and as much as I respect the work of Jim Henson a great deal, I just didn't think this movie was very good. There were many questions presented in the movie about existence, reality, and appearance, but none of them were presented in the right way. I just can't see this as being anything more than a bunch of random shit being thrown at a guy. The first major problem with this movie, unfortunately, is the man in the cube. He's about as lifeless and underreactive as you can possibly get. For all the weird and bizarre things being thrown at him in this thing, the man never seems to react to any of it on any higher a level than, man, that was weird. You're also left with the feeling that he's not doing as much as he could to try and get out of it. This is an exploration of what, if anything, it means to be a person in reality. But in order for that to work, you need to see the man go through the psychological and emotional turmoils of these fundamental things being thrown into doubt. Instead, the man doesn't seem to react to everyday people any differently than gorillas in ballerina outfits. You feel like you could remove the man from the picture entirely, and nothing would really change. Everything that comes and goes in the Cube is ridiculously random, and so you really have to ask yourself just what the film's ultimate aim is. And even the clear and concise issues that are raised are not done in an engaging way. Let's address some of the matters being brought up in the film. A girl enters the cube at one point and is very nice and friendly, but as she talks with the man in the cube, her tone becomes more hostile, and as the scene goes on, we realize that she's gradually aging, and with her age, she seems to be becoming a completely different person. So the question is, was she the same person at the end of the scene than she was when she came in the door? Well, this, unfortunately, is an impossible question to answer. If we ask ourselves, are we the same person that we were even 5 minutes ago, the answer is going to be yes in some ways and no in others. But let's look at the most specific scene dealing with appearance and reality. At one point in the film, we have a scientist talking to the man in the cube. He holds up a hammer and asks if it's real. The man, being a man of common sense, tells him that it is. But you see, says the scientist, the hammer is actually really just a series of subatomic particles, and those particles largely constitute smaller particles, and so on,
which make up a hammer,
to being nothing at all. This is basically a variant of Sir Arthur Eddington's classic two tables story. Eddington begins by telling us that he has settled down to the task of writing his lectures and has drawn his two chairs to his two tables. That's right, two tables. In fact, Eddington insists that there are duplicates of every object around him. Two tables, two chairs, two pens, etc. The first table is the real physical object he can kick and be certain that he will stub his toe on, that he can lean on and be sure that he will not fall through. This table is substantial. It has a substance and being that is this one solid thing. The second table is radically different from the first. It is what he calls his scientific table. This table is mostly emptiness. Sparsely scattered in that emptiness are numerous electric charges rushing about, but there is nothing substantial about the second table. It is nearly all empty space. Granted, it's space pervaded by fields of force, but these are merely influences, not actual things. Eddington concludes his lecture by adopting the position that the second table, that of an empty void, is more real than the substantial table itself. In fact, it is the discovery of the second table that forecloses any notion of substance at all. What Eddington, as well as the scientist in the movie, is talking about here is known as reductionism, the act of ascribing more reality to the parts that make up a whole than to the whole itself. This is similar in a way to what Plato did when he ascribed more reality to the world of ideas than to the real physical world. The two tables, or two hammers, or whatever two exists in reality, cannot be both at the same time. It is either this one solid thing that has the properties that it has, or it is a void that consists of even more voids. So which is it? What can be done to solve this problem? And that's the problem with the cube. I doubt if anyone could answer those questions based on anything in this movie. Maybe reality really is reducible to nothing at all. Or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe subatomic particles amount to what Heisenberg called a state of potentia, possibilities for being or tendencies for being, and therefore the existence and multiplicity of those atoms and elementary particles is only virtual. And why only two tables anyway? What about table number 3 that exists as an object of thought in the minds of the people perceiving it? And how much reality can be claimed for that? The point is, these matters require more thought than the film is encouraging here. A scientist just coming in and spouting off scientific conundrums doesn't get us anywhere. Trying to explain reality and existence is a lot like trying to explain gravity. It seems like a simple enough task, but when you actually try to sit down and do it with any precision, you realize how teeth-grindingly complicated it is. This movie may make you question reality, but if it does, that's all it does. The two things it doesn't do is make you think about reality or encourage any answers to these conundrums. I think this film would have been helped a great deal if it had had more interactions between the man and everything that's thrown his way. Instead of mildly reacting to things in the cube and going through the motions, they should have given the man some sort of point of view to hit back and forth with everyone and or everything else. Instead, it's just like watching a dummy being thrown through hoops. In most of what the cube may make you question can easily be remedied by nothing more than common sense. In fact, common sense tells us that nothing that's going on in the cube has anything to do with reality at all, that it's just a bunch of people putting on a show to make reality out to be something it's not. This isn't thought-provoking or insightful as much as it is just sort of a trick. Maybe you've already given a good deal of thought to some of the issues being raised here. Maybe you were already way ahead of me when I offered two possible answers to the two tables conundrum.